Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah, la'asok b'divrei Torah, la'asok b'divrei Torah, la'asok b'divrei Torah, la'asok b'divrei Torah. Okay, so we get some charity, which we'll go to some charity other than us. Okay, so, wow. Dark almond roca. Wow. You're sucking on it. You're like really good. I'm just like, okay. So, see how long it can stay in my hand and not get eaten. So, it seems like a while since we've been together, only because so much has happened in the world. Again, I want to encourage everyone to give the police their space. As I was saying, they do not have a case as of the other day. And they need to have a real solid case before charging anyone. Okay, otherwise it's bad news. I mean, think about it. If God forbid they charged him and he was convicted, and there were 30 witnesses that said that Paul had never been hit, Westlake and Thousand Oaks would burn to the ground. Okay, there'd be riots and they'd burn to the ground. So, give them the space to do what they need to do. On a different note, the Gaza parliament has been taken over by the IDF. Right. There's also a video released by the IDF of them going through tunnels in a hospital and finding an area where hostages were clearly kept, right in the basement of a hospital. I mean, you just walk, and it's incontrovertible, but that won't mean anything. I keep saying this. I'm going to keep saying it until it's heard. Going to any counter protest is counterproductive. There is no upside. You're going to yell with people who want to yell against you. Someone said to me last night that they were so happy they went on Sunday because they felt good. Well, I'm really not interested in feeling good. I'm interested in us winning a war. Yeah. And two wars. One is the actual physical war, and the other goal is to educate these nincompoops who think they've bought into all propaganda and myths about Hamas, Palestine, etc. And we need to, someone said they were trying to plan a rally for Sunday. Would I help? And I said, no. Unless you want to do a rally that's not in counter protest, you want to find a space, get a permit, get speakers who are going to talk about what Hamas really is, what Palestine really isn't, and give out handouts of the Hamas charter to everyone so they can see and educate and have an information army. That'll support. But otherwise, it's really, so you guys can hold on to it. It's really no different than children playing a sandbox, screaming at each other, and if one gets out of hand and gets violent. That's all these protests are. They're great virtue signals, but they don't do anything. Please stay away from them. Not out of fear. Someone actually told me a great line. They said that on Sunday, instead of going to counter protest, they went to the gun range.
Nice.
Good.
And worked on their firearm. And I thought that was actually, they were doing something.
That's
Okay.
very good.
So we did not go over the 10 Commandments yet. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Okay. I have to have Alan and Carolyn if I'm going over the 10 Commandments. Let's go over the 10 Commandments. Adam and Eve and we find the 10 Commandments the first time in the book of Exodus of Shemot. Chapter 20 is the portion called Yitro. It's named after Moses' father-in-law. I feel like we did this.
Chapter 20.
Chapter 20. No one else feels like we did this, right? Well, you two would know because. Okay.
I listened online. I didn't hear.
Okay. So I know we spent a lot of time on Amalek, so we may not have got to it. So, and again, forgive me for being tired. An article came out today. Another one's going to come out tomorrow or the day after. So I'm doing a lot of writing as well as the writing that we're doing in synagogue and everything else. God bless Orlando. What are the 10 Commandments? Let's look at what they really are. I often say that Shavuot, the holiday of Shavuot, is the wedding ceremony of God and Israel. And this is the ketubah. Okay? And the essence of the ketubah is actually these 10 Commandments. It's a love sign. It's a love statement. There's 13 sentences, not 10. And they are, they're all about love in a different way in a relationship. So, Carolyn, you can stay there. Alan, would you come on over here for a sec? You got to stand up, though, Carolyn. Well, actually, you don't have to stand up. Alan knows what he needs to do. Come on. This is the first time they met, whether it was or not. There was Alan, and he saw Carolyn, and he said, and he went up to her, and he went up to her, and he said,
"Hi."
And he gave her his name.
I'm Alan.
And she said,
Well, I'm Carolyn.
there you go. And he then said what he did because he was so proud. And he said, what did you, what
Well, back then, no, yes, I said I'm a radiologist.
you're a radiologist. Okay. So what he did. And then they get in a relationship. Okay. Now you can go back to your wife.
That was
It's
all I
easier.
get to
That's
do
how
tonight.
tired. That's how tired I am. Okay. So, I'm sorry for having to keep this on. So then the next thing that happens, they get in a relationship. Now, how do you know if a couple's happy in a relationship?
They're beaming.
They're beaming from their arm, from their foot,
From their face.
from their face. They're beaming from their face. And how do you know if a couple's not happy in a relationship? His face is looking elsewhere where it shouldn't be looking, right?
Any place away.
Anyway, okay. Now let's look at, and then they have, after they've been in a relationship for a while, they make agreements, right? We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, right? That's the 10 Commandments. Let's look at the first one. I am Yud He Vav He, your God. So this is like saying, hi, I'm Alan. This is chapter 20 of the book of Exodus. So it's like Alan saying, hi, I'm Alan.
What page is it on?
I have no idea what page.
180.
183.
Genesis chapter 20.
Genesis
Exodus.
chapter 20. I have no idea what
Exodus
page.
20.
Exodus 20.
Exodus 20.
So the first thing is, just like Alan says, hi, I'm Alan, God says, hi, I'm Yud He Vav He. Just like Alan says, I'm a radiologist, God says, I'm the one who took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. The next line I've never seen translated right. Just have it. You shall not recognize the gods of others in my presence. I really need to keep a set of glasses here. Let's see what it really says. Lo yihye lecha, there shall not be for you Elohim acharim, other gods, al panav. What's a punim?
Face.
Literally what it says is, there shall not be other gods for you on your face.
God's for you on your face?
Al panai. So it's the idea that you know when someone's happy because their loved one is always, as you say, it's beaming, their face is beaming. And the rest of it are more statements about how the relationship has to work. That's what's so beautiful about the 10 Commandments. They are the essence of a ketubah, of a marriage contract. And so we accept them. We got to do our part, and God will do God's part. And this whole text is about just that. It is about our part and God's part. It's an elaboration of the piece. Now, because of what's going on in the world, I normally don't talk about this till later, but I'll talk about it now. In this document of the Bible, which is in this edition, over 2,000 pages long. Over 2/3 of this book, okay, over 2/3 of this book deals with either the creation of the temple, the destruction and rebuilding of another temple, or by David and Solomon, who were responsible for the temple. This entire book is about the rebuilding of the temple and about the place of worship for God. And you're not going to hear that outside an ultra-Orthodox community because it's a really problematic statement. Everyone understands why it's so problematic.
Because of the third temple being built?
Because the third temple will be built, B'ezrat Hashem in our time, but because currently there's a mosque there that kind of causes a problem. But as Rabbi Abraham Greenbaum was taught, Everything made by man, first temple, second temple, and now the mosque, will eventually be gone by the work of other men or time. And the next temple, it says in the book of Isaiah, we'll get to it. Actually, it's supposed to be a temple for Ben Adam, not Ben Abraham, the sons of Adam, not the sons of Abraham. A place for everyone to go pray. Yeah, that's what it says in Isaiah. So I just kind of want to point that out. The essence of this is about the essence of the entire document is the Ten Commandments, the Ketubah, the love sonnet, and part of it is how to build a home for each other. If you find words of hate or anger, it's you. It's not God. It's not Torah. Just they don't exist in our text. So that's the Ten Commandments. Briefly, they're slightly different in the version when it's recapitulated in the book of Deuteronomy. So, as an example, here in chapter 20, verse 8, it says, "Remember the Sabbath day," and in Deuteronomy it says, "You shall protect or guard the Sabbath day." So one is Zachor and one is Shomer. And so what do? We light 2 candles, one for each. One is to remember, one is to.
So that's why we have two.
That's why we have 2
I
candles.
was going to ask that.
That's why.
Really?
Because Shomer v'Zachor. And so what do we say in L'Chadodi? Shomer v'Zachor beribur echad. We protect and remember is one thing or one word.
So in Deuteronomy, it rephrases the Ten Commandments.
Some of them are slightly different, yes.
In what context?
We can look at them if you want. There's a couple just basic differences. They're not huge.
No, but is there why they repeat it twice?
Oh, because in the book of Deuteronomy, when we get to it, it's basically a recapitulation of the first 4 books.
Oh, okay.
Moses has 3 speeches. Okay. Let's move on to chapter 23, verse 10. So I don't know that it's verse 10. It may be actually verse 19 or somewhere there. But it's chapter 23, somewhere between 10 and 19. And I really need to bring glasses. And really do.
Me too.
So if we look at chapter 23, and we go here, we go to verse 10. It talks about the Sabbath and the days of the week and the land. It talks about the year of the 7th year of it being a Shabbat year, a year of leaving everything fallow. It talks about the 3 festivals, and that God will always protect us, right? And it also says in here somewhere, I'm pretty sure, unless I'm being my notes wrong, which is always possible. Somewhere between chapters or verse 10 and 19, it will have the line, "Do not boil a calf in its mother's milk."
Right.
19.
Is it 19? Thank you. Yeah, you should not cook or boil a calf in its mother's milk. 3 times that is said. That is why we do not mix milk and meat. It's not because of health. Theologically, we could make the argument it's because milk is the sign of life and new life, and meat is the sign of death. But we don't boil a calf in its mother's milk. So there's an old rabbinic joke that God says to Moses, "Moses, don't boil a calf in its mother's milk." And Moses says, "So I can't have any milk with any meat." Moses, don't boil a calf in its mother's milk. "So I can't have any milk and any cow meat within 3 hours of each other." Moses, don't boil calf in its mother's milk. "So I can't have anything that could give milk, any kind of meat with any kind of milk for 6 hours apart." Fine, Moses, have it your way. Okay. So
Is there any other reference?
2 other times it's referenced.
Okay, I was going to ask.
3 times,
that.
which is why we don't cook it, eat it, or serve it. So if we look at the animal, it's about distinction. Judaism is very much about distinguishing between the holy and the holy. The first thing God does is distinguish between the light and the darkness, right? Makes a separation. There's holiness to milk products, there's holiness to meat products. But the idea is milk is the sign of brand new life, meat is a sign of death. And we don't want to mix brand new life and death. That works for everyone, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
So you don't want to have an animal that, the idea is that milk is something that comes from the cow or the goat or whatever, and meat also. And so we have 3 types of food: parv, dairy, and meat. And what is fish?
Because
Why? You
it
hush,
doesn't
I'm gonna throw
produce
some-
milk.
What is it?
Because
'Cause-
there's no milk.
Because you can't milk a fish.
Right.
So why is chicken meat?
You get,
I
in
know
old
why.
times it got confused. with
That's
meat.
exactly
Yeah,
why.
fear you might make a mistake.
Right.
So part of the rabbinic understanding is that you should build a fence around Torah. Just like how many of you have a pool, and when there were kids around, you had a fence around it, right? It was a safety fence, not because you're still not even close. Bob said it perfectly. They realized, okay, you can if you have burnt, you can have chicken and milk. There's no reason, but burnt chicken and burnt meat look very similar. Burnt fish looks different. So to make sure you're not eating burnt cow, when you think you're having burnt chicken, we're going to put chicken in with cow. Okay, I have a friend who keeps kosher, with one glaring exception: he will have chicken parmesan whenever he can.
Oh.
Okay, so so we
Because
talked.
in his mind, he's realized
He knows he can tell the difference.
now we have the ability to tell the difference with technology. With
Well, but he
single
also
law,
saying
you
it's
put-
not Torah law; it's
Yeah,
rabbinic law.
it's rabbinic
Yeah,
law.
right.
Okay,
Mm.
so that's his logic. Okay, let us move
Oh, right,
forward.
because it says a kid
A baby
and a,
calf.
and a right, and it wouldn't be a chick.
It's not a
Got
chicken,
it.
right? Okay. All right, let's go on to chapter 31, verse 16.
Mhm.
So what happens in chapter 31, 2, and 3? Okay, we have this really disturbing thing. So
So would it be
let's
miss-
remember
would it be
that they've
missing-
seen. Okay, so God betroths himself with Israel, and we have the Passover, right? Then God gets married to us on Shavuot, right? And he goes up to get these tablets, get the Torah from God at Mount Sinai, and he's down, and he's only, he's barely gone at all. And what happens? What do the Hebrew people do?
Oh, they
You're
idolize a
worshiping,
cow.
you're worshiping a cow.
They worship a golden
Okay.
calf. Basically, to put it in humanistic terms, we get engaged, we get married, and we're not even married a month, and we start having an affair.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really what's going on here,
Right.
right? And so he comes down, and the temple, the tablets are destroyed. And there's a great line in here that I do want you to read, please. I just gotta find it. Spoke. Okay. Would someone please read chapter 32, verse 17?
Joshua heard the sound of the people in it shouting, and he said to Moses, the sound of the battle is in the camp.
Was it a battle? It's a party.
Okay.
Okay. And the verb that is used of anitam is this verb that we will see later on as well, which is, who's ever been to a Persian wedding?
Yes.
What's the sound?
Oh,
Oh, come on, you can do better than that, right? Which could be a battle or it could be a party, and so it's this crying out. Later on, it's going to say on Yom Kippur that we are to not make that sound. Okay, that we are to, some will say afflict our souls, but that's actually not what it says. What the Hebrew will say later on is that on Yom Kippur, we are, because we know about this, that it's not about afflicting our souls, it's about understanding that our souls should not be celebrating in that way. We are not supposed to afflict our souls. It's not supposed to be. Yom Kippur is a happy day. So Moses comes down, the 10 Commandments get destroyed. I'm trying to move fast because we lost 2 weeks. And then we have this great thing. He appeals to God. And God says, okay. God says, okay, I'm going to forgive them all. All right. And he goes back up and he asks God to show him what God looks like. Would someone please turn to chapter 33, verse 18? Actually, 17. Start at 17. All right, here comes the Owen Rocco. What someone reads. Someone, come on, 31:17.
Hashem.
I'm sorry, 33:17.
Even this thing of which you spoke I shall do, for you have found favor in my eyes, and I have known you by name. He said, show me now your glory. He said, I shall make all my goodness pass before you, and I shall call up with the name Hashem before you. I shall show favor when I choose to show favor, and I shall show mercy when I choose to show mercy. Keep going? Was it good?
Keep going.
He said, you will not be able to see my face, for no human can see me and live, Hashem said. Behold, there is a place near me. You may stand on the rock. When my glory passes by, I shall place you in a cleft of the rock. I shall shield you with my hand until I have passed. Then I shall remove my hand, and you will see my back, that my face may not be seen.
So he places Moses in a rock in a cleft in the corner. He says, no one can see my face and live. And God passes before Moses, showing in the back of his head, which is how we know that God wears tefillin, because he showed Moses his tefillin on. And Moses calls out what are called the 13 midot. You find them in chapter 34, verse 5. No, verse 6. I'm sorry. Someone read.
Hashem passed before him and proclaimed, Hashem, Hashem, God, compassionate and gracious, slow to anger and abundant in kindness and truth, preserver of kindness for thousands of generations, forgiver of iniquity, willful sin and error, and who cleanses but does not cleanse completely, recalling the iniquity of parents upon children and grandchildren to the third and fourth generations.
So Hashem passes before him, and Moses calls that out as God's name. Again, there's 13 of them. 13, remember, we've learned is the number of love, right? The numerical value of the word for love in Hebrews 13. How many of you recognize those words? Oh, but you all do.
Mhm.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum Bechanu, Erech Apayim, Rav Chesed Behem. Right? That's what this is, the 13 attributes. Now, this is God's name. What do I mean by that? Alex, you have a beautiful son named Joel, thank God. And when you were when he was young and you were really happy, did you call him Jolie or Yoli or Joel, or what did you call him? Jolie? Okay. And when he had really screwed up, what did you Joel? Did you ever, what's his middle name?
Michael.
Did you ever say, Joel Michael Slabo, get down here?
Nope.
He was never that bad.
Well, I just never did it.
Okay, right, but our names carry a lot. This is God's name. His full name.
My son's middle name is Michael as well. And I did use Paul Michael Shackman. Get me.
Oh, that's right. Right? I'm my mom would say Mikey or Michael or whatever, or Mike. If it was Michael Lawrence Barclay, I was in trouble, right? Because that's the full. This is more serious. This is the full name of God. Are these 13 attributes and characteristics? Now, we say them on Yom Kippur, which is interesting, because the Ashkenazi world. Do we have an Ashkenazi prayer book here? Orlando, do you have a yes? Here, please, I'm looking. I don't see this one we use normally. I don't know what page it's on. Maybe on the back on the book rack. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'll just tell you what it says. It doesn't matter. You can trust me. So if you go into an Ashkenazi prayer book and you get to the Torah service, it says on Shabbat these words are not to be said. If you go in a Sephardic prayer book, it does not say that. Okay, it's okay. Okay, thanks, Eva. Why? Because the idea is that you don't petition in the same way on Shabbat in the Ashkenazi world, and so they view saying these names as if you're petitioning. Sephardic do not. They view it as praise, which then just results in good things. So, but then why do even Ashkenazi say it on Yom Kippur, which is the Sabbath of Sabbaths? And the answer is because it makes no sense. Their logic is wrong. The Sephardim, as usual, are correct. Okay? Which is why on a Shabbat we'll do the 13 attributes. Because there's no reason not to. It's calling out God's name. And we're saying that whenever you call out God by his full name, you're reminding him of this entire covenant. So he has to answer your prayer. He has no choice by his own word and the agreement he's agreed to that he has to answer it. So it's a very powerful moment. And that's where it comes from, is these 13 attributes. And now you know when you come to high holidays or Shabbat and you hear Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum, right? Now you know it's this story after the golden calf when Moses is put in the cleft of a rock. And does it. All right, let's move on and turn to Vayikra. Vayikra is the book of Leviticus. It literally means "and he called." It's a double entendre. It is about both the Levites and Kohanim calling to God and about God calling to us. That's why they call it Leviticus, because it's about the Levites. Much of the book of Vayikra actually is about Levitical things to do and about the Kohanim. And if we turn to chapter 11, we'll go through two things. We're definitely going to have time to certainly do at least these two things. Would someone please turn to chapter 11, verse 1. This is important to us. Okay? Someone read loudly. Sorry, let me just check that because that's a notice from Israel. So it's part of a group that I'm on WhatsApp that gives me these up-to-date notices. So just in case. Okay, nothing interesting. Okay. Someone read 11:1.
I'll read. Hashem spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying to them, "Speak to the children of Israel, saying, these are the creatures that you may eat from among all the animals that are upon the earth. Everything among the animals that has a split hoof."
Hold on. Okay. Split hoof.
"Which is completely separated into double hooves."
Okay.
"And that brings up its cud, that one you may eat.
Has to do both. Okay.
But this is what you shall not eat from among these that bring up their cud, or that have split hooves. The camel, for it brings up its cud, but its hoof is not split."
Okay, so you got to have both. It's got to have a split hoof, and it's got to chew its cud. Let's move down to the fish.
Number 9. Oh, fish, got it.
Number 9.
"This you may eat from everything that is in the water, everything that has fins and scales in the water, in the seas and in the streams. Those you may eat."
Okay. It doesn't have fins, and both fins and scales. Can you eat it?
No.
No.
Okay. And
Does
go to
it
the birds,
say-
please.
Does it say why?
We're gonna get there.
Okay. got it.
Okay, we're gonna get there. Okay.
Okay, the forbidden birds. These, the number 13, verse 13. "These you shall abominate from among the birds.
Okay. So wait, not okay.
They may not be eaten. They are an abomination. The nesher, the perez, the osnia, the da, and the aya according to its kind.
These are all birds of prey.
Every orev according to its kind. The bas hayana, the tachmos, the shachaf, and the nets according to its kind.
These are also scavenger birds.
The kos, the shalach, and the yanshuf. The tin shemes, the kaas.
Who has the
And the
JPS? Dylan, you have the JPS. Does it say the same words, or just give it an English translation?
Very different.
Okay, tell me what the JPS
These are
is.
an abomination. The eagle, the vulture.
Okay, hold on. Eagle, vulture,
The black vulture.
right?
The white owl.
The owl.
Yeah, the white owl.
Go on.
The kite, K-I-T-E.
Mhm.
Falcons of every variety. All varieties of raven.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The ostrich. the nighthawk, the seagull.
Okay. And does it say which ones are allowed? It says it's forbidden, right? Does it say down there what's allowed?
I'm looking.
I don't think it does.
Forbidden, no. Then it goes to
It
insect.
does say
Okay.
Oh,
What
you may
is it?
eat from
But
them.
these you may eat.
Okay, good.
locusts.
With
Among
the,
all the winged swarming things that walk on fours, all that have above their feet jointed legs to leap with on the ground. Of these you may eat the following: locusts. Okay, so now we're into
Now we're in insects, right? There's no more insects. Insects are forbidden with one exception, which is locusts.
It's what that?
Locusts.
locusts of every variety.
All right. Now,
Grasshopper.
you asked the great question.
Mhm.
Why?
Right. I know what I used to do, but
But you
don't
didn't know
don't
why.
Totally
And if
know
you
why.
don't know why, so why did you think you could eat some things and not the others?
Well, some of it I understood. I mean, I understood not mixing meat and milk, and
No, but specifically with these kind of animals.
yeah, I never really had a response or a reason that made sense to me.
We don't have an eraser? Oh, there it is.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So,
I mean, birds of prey and scavengers, that part I always understood,
bottom feeders.
the bottom feeders, but I never quite understood with the fish, like why not? Well, I guess like a shark, you wouldn't because it's
It doesn't have any scales.
well, I know that, but it's probably because it falls into the scavenger world.
sharks are
Right.
scavengers.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so let's look at something for a minute. Okay. First of all, there's something called a hook versus a mishpat.
Okay.
Okay. A mishpat is a kind of law that makes sense on its face. Don't commit adultery. Don't murder someone. Okay. Things like that. A hook, we sing Hukim Mishpatim Atanu. Okay, we Ahava Rabba is a law you got to investigate to understand.
Mhm.
It urges you, it encourages you to investigate why is this the case. We do it because God says so. But it's asking you to do that. So the idea is, let's talk for a second about food.
Let's-
Is this good for me?
Yes.
No.
Well, it depends.
It's good for me that
Dark
you're
chocolate
eating it,
is
not
good.
me.
Is this good for me?
No.
Definitely.
We agree on that. I'm running on fumes right now, which is why I'm tearing my body apart even worse. At some point, I will pay a price for it when this war is over. But until then, I do what I have to do to keep going. So, in this choice. So, let's. Do we have a bottle of water, Orlando? Thank you.
May I ask a question about the lists that
Yes.
you made? I had heard, I don't know from where, again, I'm hearing these things over my life, that an additional law on the animals, cloven hoof, chewing cud, but also has either the male or both has horns above the ears.
Not true at all.
Okay. I also heard that the
Thank you.
fish has to have covered gills.
Not true at all. It has to have fins and scales. I don't know if there are any fish that don't have covered gills that have fins and scales. I actually don't know fish. What's the right term for fish
The
anthropology?
swordfish, by the way, it doesn't have scales. It's,
Right.
and I have heard that it is not kosher.
It is
That's
swordfish
correct.
because it has no scales.
Because
Yeah.
it has no scales.
Okay.
Right.
Now, does what we eat affect how we are, how we act, and who we are?
Of course.
A little or a lot?
I think a lot
From-
personally.
What do you think?
Medium amount.
Yeah.
Ed, you seem to think like a medium or a little.
Well, are you talking about health or are you talking about
Emotionally.
emotionally?
Yes.
Okay.
Come here. Take off your watch.
Yeah, they're interrelated.
If you're wearing a watch, take it off. Anyone know what reflexology is?
Yeah. of
I love
course.
this part. That so we're going to come back to this. This is fun, and I get to relax a little bit. And I'm tired, guys. I'm really pretty wiped out.
Well, let's get out of here by 11.
I'm thinking. No, that's not. I'm going to be going till 3, so it doesn't really matter one way or the other for me. 3 or 4. So, on a subatomic level, where my body ends Where space begins and where this table begins, there is no distinction. True or false?
Your body ends in
It's just atoms,
Right.
right?
Right.
Okay.
But there's something
Everything is connected with everything else.
Mhm.
Now, let us suppose that I was in a swimming pool, okay? And Carolyn was in the swimming pool. And Carolyn was 3 feet away, and I went like this. You'd feel the water coming at you, right? And now, if you went 20 feet away, you'd have to be more focused, and I'd have to be more focused, but you could still feel the water in theory, right? In theory, could she be a mile away and the water still affect her?
Yes.
She probably wouldn't feel it, but it might affect her.
There you go. Okay. So everything affects us, right? So let's see how much it does. Stand, come over here. This is always fun.
If a tree falls in the forest and
Come
there's
over
nobody
there.
there to hear it, does it make noise? Yeah, the answer is yes, because sound waves.
Oh, sorry.
But
That's
Can you hear the noise?
no,
If you're not there, you
if
won't.
you're not there, you
Okay.
won't hear the noise.
But we are not a tree falling in the
Essentially.
forest. Take off your glasses. So this part right here, we're going to learn later on. There's these 10 things called spheroid energy centers. This is one of them. It's a place of harmony. What I'd like you to do is just hold water with your right hand. We'll do some reflexology testing. Put up your arm strong, sideways, sideways, and keep me from pressing down on your arm. Keep your arm up. Keep it strong. Nice and strong. Okay. Switch the water for the Diet Dr. Pepper, please. Put your arm up.
Yeah, no.
Same thing.
Oh, I couldn't do it.
Try the water again. I don't want you to hurt your shoulders. Don't
No,
go too far.
fine.
Hold it strong.
What?
Try the Dr. Pepper. Hold it strong.
It's amazing.
Wait.
I
No,
don't have to try
no.
this.
Put the Dr. Pepper and the almond roca in your hand.
Oh.
But now you got to put it right. That's okay. Hold it strong.
Oh,
What about the
Okay.
yeah.
water
There's
and
a
almond
qualitative
roca?
difference.
What about water and almond roca?
I would depend on how. Now, well, I can actually show you something a little bit different. Okay. I'm gonna whisper something here. Hold on to this. Hold on to it. Not before, really, when you're ready. When you do what I told you to do. Close your eyes and really feel so you can really. Got it?
I'm gonna go home and read Kabbalah.
Tell them. Wait. So you just got stronger.
Yeah,
What did you do?
I was saying the Shema over and over and over.
Wow.
Okay.
So
This.
that means that if we say the right blessing, we can eat pork. Right?
Yes. No, actually, the statement is yes. When is the right time to eat pork?
Nothing else is available.
When you're going to die if you don't.
That's right.
Okay. So, why do I share that? Okay. And if you want to do that, we can do that. You can try yourself. You can also have someone, like if you hold your pinkies together, you've done it, haven't you, Bob? You've watched resistance.
Oh, yeah.
You can see if you can hold them together or not. You can see if someone's stronger or weaker based on it. Okay. What we have, what we intake in our bodies, even this isn't even in our body, right? If I'm putting it in my body, it's even more, right? Does everyone follow that? There are 3 types of animals in the world: scavengers, predators, and grazers. And it's an ethical statement that we're not going to take others' leftovers. We're not going to prey upon others. We're going to take what God provides and work as a tribe, as a community, the way that because all those grazers graze together, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And do that. So take a look at it, right? If you have grazers, predators, scavengers, you will find all the kosher ones are here, all the non-kosher ones are here. Pick an animal. I don't care. Pick an animal. Come on.
Pig.
Pig is a grazer, predator, scavenger.
Scavenger.
It's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
all
scavenger,
three.
yeah.
By the way, how many of you heard that kashrut was about cleanliness?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All my life.
No.
It's not.
It's not. How do I know it's not? How do we all know? Anyone ever been in the wild with a raccoon?
No.
Been at Stonehouse.
Oh, it's clean.
Raccoon, other than the raccoon on Wednesday night last
Yeah.
week,
Yeah. They wash all their food. They're very
they
clean.
they literally go to a water source. They wash their hands, wash their food, wash their hands, eat their food, wash their hands.
Yeah.
I am totally unsympathetic to raccoons these days. Okay.
Okay.
Who was not there Wednesday? Who? Okay, so let me just explain. On Wednesday night, we had a class on anti-Semitism, and there was a raccoon walking along the Ramada, the top, and kept dropping, like, leaves and stuff like that. And so Helen Rabani, our treasurer, at one point is reading something, and I'm like, "Why?" And wherever I go, this raccoon's dropping. There's these leaves and stuff. And suddenly I'm on there, and I get doused. I got peed on by a raccoon.
Oh, sorry.
No, it gets worse. My son saw it. He couldn't believe it. He put it in slow motion and made a loop track.
No.
And I had a jacket on, so I wasn't aware exactly how much I apparently. This raccoon, I think, had been drinking for 4 days. Okay. All right, so raccoons are clean, but they're not allowed. A chicken's dirty, but it is allowed. Right? It has nothing to do with health or cleanliness. Pick another animal. We have pigs. Raccoons are also scavengers.
Right. The predators.
And I always thought that
Crossing out raccoon.
I
Okay,
always
right.
thought the hind quarter of the animal was about cleanliness, but you taught us before that
It's
it
not.
had to do with
It's not cleanliness. Pick
Yeah.
another animal. Pick an animal.
Giraffe.
Cat, predator. As are lions, tigers,
Dog?
Bears, am I?
bears, and that's right, the very famous omais.
He just said a giraffe,
Giraffe.
which is a grazer, basically, although they graze in the trees
I
mostly.
don't know about a giraffe,
Yeah,
honestly.
but who in the
That's
heck
why
would
They
eat a
chew cud
giraffe?
and they have a cloven hoof.
Yeah.
Do they chew their cud?
Yes, they
Don't
do.
they chew-
They're antelope.
Do they have cloven hooves?
Yes, they do.
No, they're kosher.
Oh.
I can't imagine eating one, but I guess it is. I've never thought about it.
Look, you have a Jew in Africa. Wait.
But do they eat
No,
giraffes
they're
anyhow? I don't think they eat
No,
giraffes.
they're
No.
probably
No.
Because
protected.
giraffes are pretty lean. I don't know why you eat them. They
Yeah.
would be very tasty. What else? Pick a bird. Pick the birds.
Falcon.
Emu.
Falcon,
Yeah.
predator,
Quail.
Emu.
quail, grazer,
Mhm.
emu, predator,
Parakeet.
parakeet. I
Lunch.
don't know what a
Yeah.
parakeet is.
That's a,
Lunch.
It's a little
Lunch.
bird about this big. And
That goes.
Again,
Lunch
there's
for- lunch
some
for
things
us.
you're
Let's
not
do what we
supposed
know. Well, owl, right? Owl's a
Predator.
predator, and yet crow or raven
Mhm.
scavengers
Right.
and
are scavengers.
They're
Do you guys see the point?
Yeah.
What about duck?
Fish,
Duck is-
duck's kosher.
dolphin are
Duck,
kosher.
duck, and goose, all three of them. Okay. What else? What about fish? Salmon's kosher.
Trout.
Mhm.
Trout's kosher.
Pike.
Pike's kosher.
Halibut.
Mine-
Shark is not.
Right. Northern-
Catfish is not, because it's a scavenger.
Right.
Tilapia.
Tilapia is.
Right.
Eels.
Eels is
No.
not,
It's
because
scavenger.
eels are predators.
Oh, and that's why the shellfish are not kosher for the
So
same
all the
reason,
shellfish.
scavengers.
And what is calamari? And it's an invertebrate shellfish,
Yes.
right? You can't have squid, octopus. So do you guys see how this all works?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's an ethical statement that you are what you eat. It's an go ahead. Go. Tilapia's kosher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tilapia. Oh, yeah.
Fish. No.
It has
No.
fish. It's fish and scales. It's not bottom feeder.
It's not a scavenger?
It's not
No.
scale.
No.
Catfish has no scale.
Red snappers.
Catfish is, scavenger.
So
Excuse me, could you repeat again what you said about octopus?
it's an octopus has no fins or scales. Octopus is a predator.
So any
Okay.
fish is gonna eat off the bottom, so you're just gonna ignore that part for the sake of the.
It's not a. They're not going for the leftovers. They bring out.
Hunt. Yeah.
I don't know that every fish does eat off the bottom. I actually don't know if that's true.
Every fish I've ever kept is ate off the bottom if it was hungry, so.
You mean every fish that you have
In an aquarium.
in an aquarium, right? And I don't know how many kosher
Yeah.
fish. We had an aquarium briefly.
We use
And-
the term bottom feeders, but I think it really meant.
It's scavengers.
Scavengers, it's different.
Obligate, obligate.
Right.
Anything that's a scavenger.
Only scavengers and
Only
don't
sca-
go for things mid-water or up above.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense for that.
So,
So-
in the
So
in the Torah, they don't say the reason why
It's
They
a
give us-
hook.
They give us a specific example.
So we are
and
forced to
then we-
understand.
And then the rabbis inferred what the reasoning was. and
I
we
ate
just-
crab cakes with my brother every Sunday as a kid. My older brother went to a place in Encino called Maxwell's. I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember it. And Ventura Boulevard. And because my older brother got arrested, was 12 years older than me, and we would have Sunday crab cakes. Okay. And and my logic was, you do not tell me about this is about cleanliness. I don't buy it. When I learned this, I said, okay, I'm going to take a year and cut out all non-kosher animals and see if I feel different at the end of the year. At the end of the year, I felt qualitatively different. Now, was that because I really felt different or because I wanted to feel different? I can't tell you an honest answer, except I can tell you that I stopped eating non-kosher at that point. Okay. So
No, but what I'm saying is this was the text that was given, but the rabbis must have then said, why did God give these different
well, that's
animals?
oral law. Remember, we're
Right.
going to get to oral law as
Okay,
well.
but then someone
This
must have pieced together like, oh, this is what these
It's called a hook.
animals have in common. Like, let's.
It's a hook versus a mishpat. Exactly.
I have
Exactly.
one last question. My Christian friend always gives me questions and tells me things
Tell them to show up.
that I didn't know. Yeah, I will. But he says that prior to Noah, we were all vegetarians anyhow. Is that true?
I don't know that we were all vegetarians prior to Noah, but I do know that the time will come, God willing, when we will all be vegetarians again. Okay, in the time of Mashiach. But these are the laws until Mashiach comes.
Yeah.
Okay. So kashrut means a little bit different. Now, be honest. How many of you, I don't want to know if it's occasional, rare, or often, eat treif, meaning it's not kasher? Okay. So
Yeah, In-N-Out Burger. Sorry.
I'm not asking. I'm not assuming. So.
I know.
And by the way, let's be clear about treif. Okay, let's not talk about that meat's not treif. I mean, that meat's is not kosher because it's not slaughtered properly.
Right.
But a cow is kosher. So when I say eat treif, I mean kasher means fit. It's okay. I mean animals that are unfit, i.e., shellfish, eel, like unagi,
Shellfish.
shrimp, bacon, honey baked ham, or whatever it's called, pig, any of those kind of foods. How many of you eat something like that occasionally?
I go
Okay.
back and forth.
Rarely, yes.
Okay. I want to make a suggestion because I think if we don't experience it, it's hollow, it's empty, and it's a waste. Take 3 months. I took a whole year. Take 3 months and just say, these 3 months, I'm not eating. Not that it has to be kosher meat. Okay. I'm not saying you got to go get kosher meat, kosher chicken. Take a step at a time. The way we become more observant is a little small step at a time. Take a step at a time and say, okay, for this 3 months, I'm not going to eat any treif animal. You want to eat In-N-Out Burger? Knock yourself
Right.
out. Okay.
As long as you don't have cheese on it.
Okay.
Right.
No, that's up to you. It's a different law. It's a different
No, I
piece,
see what you're saying.
right? So as long as you don't have bacon on it.
Right.
Okay. Try it.
Right.
See at the end of 3 months, do you feel different? Is there a qualitative difference? I can only tell you, I decided to do it for a year because I had not been kosher before that. And at the end of the year, you know what? I feel different. And after that, I only missed eating treif for about another 6 months, and only with one thing, which was one restaurant that had a lobster bisque that was basically 10 pounds of butter in a cup. Okay. I mean, it could have been a salmon bisque just as much. It wasn't because of the lobster, it was because this bisque was like, pretty rich. But try it. See if it changes how you feel. And then determine. Otherwise, it's just
And you can also make
hypothetical.
modifications. I mean, like
Sure.
Trader Joe's has the most amazing turkey bacon that the kids love, and it says bacon on it, but it's all turkey.
Allison makes what we call it a PKD salad because they make it a pico kosher deli. It's basically a salad with a lot of Thousand Island and avocado and chicken and fried pastrami. Okay, which kind of has that. It's like it's a Cobb salad, has egg and it's basically a Cobb salad.
Right.
Only it's got kosher chicken and fried pastrami. Alex.
Right.
I go to Brent's Deli
and they have a San Francisco burger. I get the burger, but I get pastrami instead of bacon.
Okay.
Good.
I'm not saying that it's got to be kosher pastrami or that's the next step.
You're saying just by its virtue.
I'm saying make it. What I'm suggesting is take a little bit of time in your own life to explore a small step and see if it has any difference.
When we were
I'm not
young-
saying change your.
No.
I'm not saying become a
No,
vegetarian.
that
I'm
would
not
be
saying,
helpful for my family because I think my dad in particular, he's sort of taken the opposite view because he thinks, and maybe it's just an LA thing, but he thinks like the people who sell kosher meat have distorted that because they jack up the price. There's been fraud. They're
Which is
taking
true.
advantage. So it's
Yeah.
like for him,
Right.
unfortunately, human beings have also made it hard for him to do this because it's twice as much, and you don't even know and then you have this investigation a few years ago that they've been
right. So
replacing the wrong meat for 13 years, and
So look, what I'm suggesting to you, and remember, I'm suggesting you do what the Torah says.
Mhm.
The idea of what makes kosher cow as opposed to non-kosher cow, how it's slaughtered, is Talmud. It's rabbinic. It's oral law.
but the eat its cut.
But I'm just suggesting
Right.
take the time and experience it, and see if it makes you feel. If you see any difference in how you perceive the world, how more aware you are of subtleties. Yeah.
I'll go 1 or 2 or 3 years without eating anything that is not on the proper list. And I can tell you that physically, I don't feel anything physically, but emotionally, and there's a pride when I eat. When people say, well, I'll have this with cheese and I'll have this and I'll have a cheese. But it wasn't the cheese. I'll have bacon, I'll have this. I'll sit at a table and not have that. And I feel good inside that I'm not having it. So emotionally speaking, it makes a difference. For me.
Look, emotion, spirit,
Mhm.
mentally, physically, whatever it is,
Whatever
I'm
it
just
is.
suggesting try it
Yeah.
or don't. But what I'm doing is suggesting is to try it because what do you have to lose?
Well,
Okay, and I'm not
Yeah.
saying, go out and only eat
Mm-mm.
meat that's been slaughtered in a kosher way right now. Saying take things a step at a time.
No, because I remember this past Passover, I really just ate a lot of sushi, and I'm Sephardic, and I can have rice with my sushi, and I did feel lighter, heavier.
For that week, I'm
not-
Sephardic too.
Right.
I felt
Well,
lighter,
we
not
went-
as heavy, not as
Yeah.
bloated.
We went plant-based mostly. We do eat fish, and I have a weakness for shellfish, but you're inspiring me to give it
All
up.
I'm saying is to try.
You're inspiring
Okay.
me for that. But when we first got married and we had our children, we koshered our home and kept kosher in the house. Not out of the house because it was difficult for life and the kids and everything we were doing, but we did it in the home, not because we were super religious, but we were, we felt we raised our kids in a conservative shul, Rabbi Shokit, and we wanted to show them another aspect of what Jewish life was all about.
Rabbi
And they-
Shulchan made a great line to me.
Mhm.
He says, Michael, you raised them right, and when they rebel, they'll have a ham and cheese sandwich, and it's really not that bad.
Double Western cheeseburger or double
Our
Western
son
bacon
was bacon-
cheeseburger
double
when he
Western
was
bacon
a
cheeseburger.
teenager. But he was also the same kid that would go hungry at a birthday party when he was young because there was only pepperoni pizza.
Right.
So again, we did it for spiritual, religious reasons.
But
to
you
be
stopped.
kosher. We stopped partially because it got to be incredibly expensive to buy only kosher meat.
Yeah.
So but then 3 years ago now, we've pretty much eliminated. We have no meat. We haven't eaten meat or chicken or anything like that, and so that makes it easy to avoid all of that. And he doesn't really eat shellfish very often.
I'm just saying try it.
I think
Try
I'm
it.
going to.
I'm just suggesting
And I
to
no
try.
longer have to worry about meat and dairy and all of that other,
Just try a step at a time.
Yeah.
The way you become water wears away stone, it says in the book of Job. A drop of water over and over, the stone gets moved. Doesn't matter if it's the Grand Canyon. And a little step at a time.
Mhm.
That's how you change your life.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you realize I'm here and I was over there. Okay? After that, it might be okay. I'm only going to get kosher meat. Or then it's going to be okay. You know what? I did it for 3 months. It affected me. I'm going to spend 3 months. I'm not going to have milk and meat in the same meal. By the way, it's about the same meal, which is why in Sweden you can have milk and meat within an hour or 2 hours of each other, and in Germany and Poland it was 6 hours.
Huh.
It's actually not based on time; it's based on meals.
What?
On meals. So if you're in a culture where you're eating a meal every 2 hours, no problem.
Huh.
So you're saying Swedish kashrut was different than German kashrut?
Swedish, not that it
Because
is.
in Sweden you have 5 or 6 meals a day. They're just probably
Right.
smaller or
Right. As opposed to in Poland and Germany, you had 2, so it's 6
and
hours.
the rabbi in Sweden would be totally fine because it says a meal is a meal. We're productive.
Right.
So interesting.
Okay.
That's all.
So I'm just suggesting try it. Now that you know the reason why, that has to do with not being a scavenger or a predator, but receiving what God does. All right, let's go to Vayikra 18. That's chapter 18 in the book of Leviticus. This would be 18, verse number 1. This is always another really interesting read. Okay, so someone just read 1 through 5, and then we're going to come down.
Hashem spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, I am Hashem, your God. Do not perform the practice of the land of Egypt in which you dwell, and do not perform the practice of the land of Canaan to which I bring you, and do not follow their traditions. Carry out my laws and safeguard my decrees to follow them. I am Hashem, your God. You shall observe my decrees and my laws, which man shall carry out, and by which he shall live. I am Hashem.
You can read the next couple.
Any man shall not approach his close relative to uncover nakedness. I am Hashem. The nakedness of your father and the nakedness of your mother you shall not uncover. She is your mother. You shall not uncover her nakedness.
Okay, so now we're talking about, in case you weren't clear, sex.
Right.
Okay, please move down to, because we want to get to the one that's a little bit more difficult. Let's get down to verse 21. Just read 21, 22, and 23.
You shall not present any of your children to pass through for Molech, and do not profane the name of your God. I am Hashem.
No sex with children as for religious purpose. Go on.
Right.
You shall not lie with a man as one lies with a woman. It is an abomination. Do not lie with any animal to be contaminated with it. A woman shall not stand before an animal for mating. It is a perversion.
Okay. This is the only place in our text that potentially talks about homosexuality.
Right.
Okay. I'm not going to get into what the Christian scriptures do or do not say. I am not a minister or a priest. I try not to avoid saying what their text actually says. I wish they would stop talking about ours unless they were reading it in Hebrew.
Yeah.
Okay? But let's talk about what this says. How do you read this line? That you shall not lie with a man as one lies with a woman. How do you should we read it? Just tell me. Come on. Go ahead.
Be intimate.
Okay, let's be a little bit blunter. What be intimate between whom and whom? What can you not do?
You can't have sex with another man.
Okay.
Intercourse, I would assume.
Intercourse. Okay.
Okay, you can't have intercourse with another man. Okay. Other comments? That's it. Everyone accepts it.
Specific.
What?
I don't find it very specific because there's 2 sexes he's talking to, and who's he? Women shall not lie with mankind.
Okay, so you're looking at it as women and women as well. So it's a prohibition on all homosexuality.
I'm just saying that it isn't necessarily about homosexuality. You shall not lie with mankind as with womankind. Who is he talking to?
Well, God's talking to all of us.
Right.
So what? How do you interpret? So how? What?
would lie with mankind, and half of us might or might.
Well, no, it says you should. No, it's specifically it is male. A male shall not lie with a male because it's a top.
What in Hebrew? What is the word?
You're gonna make me without my glasses get this, aren't you?
Translation,
22.
line,
Yeah, I just gotta
funny
find.
word in English.
You're gonna make me do this. Okay.
Nah.
You're gonna actually. It's in male form.
That's why we know it's okay.
But it can
That's
be
why it's
interpreted in one way.
it's talking in the male tense,
It's talking in the male form.
male form.
But
Which is why you
this
shall
is
not
the-
lie with a man.
A better definition is a man shall not lie with a man, as a man lies with a woman. Okay. So based on that, what does that say? So you're saying no male on male intercourse. Any other interpretations?
Like to be just laying next to. I don't know.
Any intimacy.
Any intimacy.
Mhm.
Okay.
Or it could, I mean, I don't know, it could mean for the purpose of procreation. I don't know.
Well, last I checked, men can't procreate with another man. I really don't care what the political party says
Yeah,
today.
the wokesters will beat you up for
Okay.
that.
Yeah. You know, the idea of having
Yeah.
tampons in a men's bathroom.
I know.
Saturday.
All right. Let's look at this from a couple of ways. Okay. And explain each of the possible interpretations. One interpretation would be it's directed at men versus men. Okay. And male and male sex is prohibited. Okay. Everyone got that one?
Mhm.
Okay. Any problems with that one? I'm not asking you if you have a problem with that. I mean,
Nope.
okay.
No.
Everyone's okay with that, right? One interpretation would be that by extension, because as you're saying, it's although it's done to men, it's also being spoken to men and women. So one interpretation would be a man cannot have sex with a man, and a woman cannot have sex with a woman. Everyone see the validity of that interpretation?
Not as you read it. In my mind, not as you read it in the male.
But the idea that
sense.
often the text is addressed in male form, but it's actually referring to women as well. Okay? You shall
Okay.
keep an
that's
example
it.
being that you shall remember the Sabbath.
But you is plural. Doesn't say.
You're gonna make me look it up. aren't you?
Yes.
Well,
I am.
when he landed on the moon, one step for mankind,
Kind,
men
right.
and women. So,
I
You know the joke
understand.
about that, right?
no, I don't.
How many of you know the story
That's
about
not
Neil
what
Armstrong?
the original words were.
Pardon?
It was one small step for a man.
Yes,
It was changed.
yeah.
Don't do you guys know the story about that?
You mean the next door neighbor?
Yeah. Go ahead and tell them the
That's
story about the
an
next door
aspect
neighbor.
of
It's
generic.
and I'm gonna botch it, but basically Neil a man
Mr. Goldstein.
Mr. Goldstein
So
and his
they're-
wife live next to Neil Armstrong, right? When Neil Armstrong is a kid, and Mrs. Goldstein says to Mr. Goldstein, "I'll have sex with you when the kid next door walks on the moon."
And so apparently the original line was
Basically,
one small step for mankind. Congratulations, Mr. Goldstein.
I mean, yes, the interpretation could mean it being all, but it could also be interpreted very.
All right, look.
narrow.
I'm just going to look at where it says you shall not have the gods of others on your face. It says lo hiye lecha. That's lecha means you male,
Right.
not lachem, not lach. But it's for women too, right? So the language of Torah
Right.
often may say for one sex but refer to another,
Right.
for or both sexes. In which case, like remember the Sabbath, like right, because it says lecha. Lo hiye lecha. You shall not have the other. Okay, it's for you. So one could just, can we all agree that there's a possible interpretation that you cannot have sex with a man? A man cannot have sex with a man, a woman cannot have sex with a woman. Those
Yes.
legitimate interpretations?
Yes.
Remember the concept? Who remembers the concept elu ve'elu? These words and these words are both words. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
What about it's not talking about making love, it's only talking about sex? Because when the characters in the Bible make love, it's a different verb. It's lada'at, to know. Adam knows Eve. Abraham knows Sarah. It doesn't say lada'at. So maybe it's only referring to rape.
Huh.
It doesn't say ladat. So it's only referring to the act, or not even the act. Let's not even say right. It's only referring to the act if there's no love between each other. But if a man and a man love each other, they're not lying with each other. They know each other.
Interesting.
Is that a legitimate interpretation? Yes? Who says yes?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because
says
you see
no?
Other places that it's used in the form of love, and
When is all we know is Adam knows Eve, Abraham knows Sarah, Jacob knows Rachel, right?
and if they really wanted men not to know men, they would say. a
So
man
okay,
may
so
not
now
know a man.
now we have an interpretation. We've gone from it's only men with men, it's only women with women. It's only if the couple is acting out without love. Okay. Now we've been already taught, and we know that one of the ways to interpret Torah is to look at it in the context of the verses before and after it. What is the verse? Who's just reading that? Please read the verse right before that.
You shall not present any of your children to pass through for Moloch, and do not profane the name of.
Okay, no sex with children. Go to the one after it.
You shall not lie with a man as one lies with a woman. It is an
Go after
abomination.
we go after that one. We got that one.
Do not lie with an animal to be contaminated with it.
Okay, so before we have an adult and a child, and afterwards we have an adult with an animal. So in both these cases, if there is an inequality of power, right? So is it maybe the interpretation is rape is forbidden?
Why don't they just say that?
They are. All these are forms of rape, aren't they? We call them now forms of rape. Then they were just called acts of war or Hamas, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? Is that a legitimate interpretation?
Yeah.
Okay. So all of these are legitimate in their own way, aren't they?
It's,
Go on.
it's interesting.
I'm going to be forced to have another almond roca while you do.
No, yeah, it's interesting the way you bring this up because traditionally, historically, when a tribe attacked and destroyed another tribe, the first thing the men did was to rape the women and quite often rape the children as well. So this interpretation you're giving about rape is very logical.
All right. Let's take it a step farther. Okay. It is forbidding any relationships where there is an inequality in power. You guys good with that?
Yeah.
Psychologist and client,
Yes.
Quality
Yes.
of power.
clergy, congregant,
Yes.
Quality of power.
lawyer, congregant. What?
Prostitution, where you have no
Potentially
love.
prostitution, although there's an exchange.
There's an exchange,
But there's still
technically
power.
it's not love.
Correct, but we're talking now. We're talking if the interpretation is about power, right?
It's still power.
Boss and employee.
I know there's a real question in the prostitute case: who has the power? So but we don't do that anyhow. So that's from other places. Teacher, student.
Yep.
So if we go from that interpretation, that understanding, all of those kind of relationships are forbidden based on this. President and intern. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that? Right? Which is right. They all are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Here's what happens. And you're going to find this as we go through, especially when we get to Talmud, we start talking about abortion. Did I ever tell you guys the story about the 9-year-old archer? Okay, so a rabbi goes into a village and he sees all these beautiful bullseyes and he says, "Who's your archer?" And they say, "Moishle, the 9-year-old." And he goes to Moishle and says, "Did you do all these archers?" "Yes, sir, I did." "How did you get so good?" "Well, it's easy. I shoot the arrow and then I draw a target around it." If you're walking in saying all homosexual relationships should be forbidden, then that's how you read this text. If you're walking in saying homosexual relationships are fine, but relationships that where there's an inequality of power should be forbidden. Here's your text. You guys see this?
Mhm.
So, and they're all true is the point. And we need to understand that if you're going to make a comment that it says in the Bible, that one, that such and such is forbidden, know why? Because you can also make the comment that homosexual relationships are absolutely fine for this, can't you?
Yep.
It's only about
Two things.
sex, not about making love. So you can make that comment. That's a very fair interpretation, right? By that logic, can't you have a marriage of two gay guys?
Yes.
If that's the argument, look,
And
I'm
this would also say you can't have casual sex either.
again, you
No,
could
that's what I'm
interpret.
saying. If you're
You
gonna-
could interpret. Well, you can't have casual sex with the same sex.
No, but it would also say that. I see what you're saying.
It doesn't say you can't
No,
have
like the
casual.
whole interpretation is that having sex with love is holy. One can argue that that's
It's a great line. You know what a
Right.
marriage is? It's a license to have sex.
exactly.
Okay, right? You can, but this particular line, which doesn't talk about heterosexual sex. Moreover, one could make the argument that it's clearly not talking about homosexual sex. Why? I'm not a biology major. Okay, but it says a man cannot make love to another man the way a man makes love to a woman. Now, try and do this politely.
Ah, yeah, that's
A man
true.
can make love to a woman the way a man makes love to a man, correct? Spooning, for lack of a better term, correct?
Correct.
No.
A man can make love to a woman the way that a man makes love to a man,
Yes.
Yes.
right?
Sort of, yes.
Okay, how am I going to explain this nicely?
No, don't.
Well, the
No, we all
anatomy
understand,
doesn't
yes.
work out. But
The anatomy, okay,
Anatomy doesn't-
the anatomy works that the way a man has intercourse with another man,
You could do it with a woman.
he could do the same thing with a woman, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I'm having a talk about the birds and the bees with a doctor. What's wrong with this picture? Okay. How many kids you got?
Plenty.
I'm telling you, I'm going to call one of them. Excuse me. All right. But as far as I know, the way that a man and a woman make love, one of the ways a man and a woman make love, a man and a man, it's not going to work. Am I right in that?
You're right.
Okay, just want to make sure because if the doctor's not correcting my biology, Okay. So therefore, by definition, the statement itself makes no sense. Therefore, it's not talking about sex. It's talking about relationships of power. How's my argument?
That's a good one.
Good one.
Okay. Point being, this can be and is interpreted in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I'm not here to tell you what the way is. I'm here to say, let's start looking at text like rabbis.
Mhm.
Let's really explore the text and see what it says. That's what I love about this particular line, because you can legitimately, in dialogue, realize we got a bunch of ways of interpreting it, don't we? Go ahead, Alex.
This is the beauty of this text. And Joel and I were discussing this a couple of weeks ago. And we're both convinced that man could not have written this.
Man could not have written this. I agree with you.
But it's so
I agree.
logical.
Alex, when I was a young man, I used to believe that the Torah was written by men inspired by God who were very awake and aware. And I do not believe a human being wrote this.
No.
Okay, I don't. But that's an ultra orthodox attitude, and so that's my belief. But I also shared with you last time the multiple authorship belief, didn't I? Which is also very legitimate. Our goal is not here. Our goal in class is not to learn in a lot of ways, but it's also to educate, not
So
instruct.
the reason you say, I think I appreciate this. The reason you say a man or a human being did not write this is because this, now in 2023, this has like foreseen everything going on that how could you even think about all the different permutations that would
Right.
happen 2,000, 3,000 years
Years
ago, Christianity,
Yeah.
because right now people seem like they're just cherry picking. They take one line and that's what it is.
Welcome to, and you know who does that work? You know who does that more and worse than anybody else?
I'm not going to say Christian pastor.
No, Reform rabbis. pick and choose.
Yeah.
Okay. When we get to abortion, okay, I'm going to give you the argument for abortion right now because I can do this in 15 minutes. I can do this. The only reason I know I can do this is because I have a book I want that's coming out this year on the Jewish take on abortion. So, okay. How many of you have heard that abortion is okay in Judaism? How many of you have heard that?
Yeah, well, I've heard it. I know the answers.
Okay.
No, it's not.
How many of you heard it's not that it's not okay?
I've heard that too.
I've heard under unique circumstances.
Yeah, I've heard
Okay.
both.
So here is and I wrote actually a policy paper for Marco Rubio when he's running for president on abortion, on the Jewish take on abortion, and they couldn't use it because it would anger some people. Judaism basis, I'm just going to give it to you in a Reader's Digest version, but it goes to what you're saying about the brilliance. Okay, Judaism does not build law upon what we cannot know. It builds law upon what we know. Okay? We recognize that there's that which is unknown and that which is unknowable. It is unknowable to know when a fetus gets its soul. Okay? So there are those who argue in the Talmud that a fetus gets its soul upon the moment of conception. 30 days, 45 days, 60 days. Not till birth. There's all these different arguments, and they all make legitimate arguments. But it's unknowable. It's not unknown, it's unknowable. There's no possible way any human being can know. Everyone with me? Everyone agree with that?
Right.
So as rabbis in our court here of our Sanhedrin, we're not going to base the law on what's unknowable. Fair? Okay. We know that at 36 weeks, the baby is fully developed. Agreed?
Yes.
We know when the crown comes out, even if it's pre 36 weeks, we know that there is a being there.
Right.
All agree with that?
Yeah.
If there's a being, there's a soul. Yes?
Yes.
So the rabbis say up until either 36 weeks or when the crown of the baby is revealed, the fetus is not considered its own life form. It is considered a limb of the mother, like a thigh. It is entirely the mother's. It is entirely her rights. Now, we all grew up with Roe v. Wade, with a woman's right to her own body and her right to choose, right? And that's one argument. That's the pro-choice argument. The pro-life argument is it's murder. The fetus has a soul. And I don't care who you are, that's a chasm you cannot cross. Because if the person doesn't believe that the fetus has a soul, they will never go to the place of saying that abortion should have limits. Everyone with me on that? Everyone see that argument? So we look at it as pro-choice versus pro-life, Western culture. Judaism does not. Because it is all about, we've taken the soul off the table. A woman has her own right. It's her body. Okay? And we know that if a woman, because it says in Torah, if a woman, goes back to what you were saying, right? And about dealing with things. If a woman is injured, who's pregnant, and loses the baby, it is a tort crime, not a capital crime. In other words, there are civil damages, but it is not a capital crime. So clearly it's not murder. Everyone with that?
Okay.
Okay. Clearly not murder. Moreover, we have proof that it is the woman's right with this, because if I buy Ed's cow and Ed's cow is pregnant and Ed's cow has a calf, who owns the calf?
You do.
I do. I bought the cow. I get the calf with it.
So limb of the cow.
Right? Even if you didn't know the cow was pregnant, and I get it, whose cow is it? It's mine. The calf is mine, right? Okay. Moreover, Jewish law forbids us from leaving anything to an unborn child. Okay. If someone is pregnant, you cannot leave or endow them pre-birth. Okay. This is why we don't have baby showers, by the way. Traditionally. I mean, I know everyone does, including my wife did, but that's traditionally why we don't have baby showers. Child can't own anything. Okay? So, based upon that,
There's more of a superstition.
no, you don't say mazel tov. You say b'sha'a tovah, which means in a good hour, as opposed to mazel tov for the superstition. Okay. May it happen in a good hour. Not okay. So based upon that, it would seem that Judaism is totally okay with abortion, doesn't it? Up to 36 weeks.
But
Right? We're looking at
Okay.
law. I'm not asking for personal
Okay,
opinions.
okay.
Right?
Does
Okay.
it clearly state something about
In
36
Talmud,
weeks?
yeah, in Talmud it does.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so, but
Always a Jewish but.
But there's always a contradiction somewhere.
I got a question. Well, you don't practice this kind of. Is anyone else in the medicine business?
I was.
What were you in the medicine business?
I managed an OBGYN's office.
Oh, you're perfect. Oh, well, no, you're not perfect. I want someone ideally.
You want a plastic surgeon.
I do want a plastic surgeon. Yeah.
mine was laboratory science.
Okay. And veterinary? I need. Okay, I need a. Okay. So, Alex is a plastic surgeon. Look how fast you got your degrees. Okay. And in comes Mr. Poloni. And Mr. Poloni says to Alex, I've lost the ability. He says he's lost the ability to move two of the fingers in his left hand. Okay. So he says, Dr. Alex, cut off the entire arm. What would happen if Dr. Alex did that?
He'd be out of business real fast.
Well, beyond that, he'd be in jail, wouldn't he?
Right.
Yeah.
And Mr. Poloni would be institutionalized, right?
Right.
Why?
Because it was overkill, literally.
It's not his body,
It's not. Oh. got
right?
it.
It's not our bodies.
Right.
Just because you don't like the way your arm looks doesn't mean you can cut it off, does it? Right?
Right.
Which means, yes, it is entirely the woman's rights. And with rights come, to quote Rabbi Spider-Man, responsibilities.
Responsibility.
How come everyone knows that? They don't know who Rabbi Akiva is, but they don't know who Rabbi Yochanan is, but Rabbi Spider-Man, they know.
Rabbi.
Right? With rights come responsibilities. So a woman who is pregnant, yes, it's her right, but it's also her responsibility. And the specific, it's very specific language, that the fetus is like a limb. That's why it's her right, and that's why it's her responsibility. You don't get to cut off your leg because you think it's fat. Now, same situation. Mr. Poloni walks into Dr. Alex, says, Dr. Alex, he says that two of his fingers are paralyzed. Dr. Alex does an examination, finds that his arm is gangrenous. Is Dr. Alex allowed to amputate the arm?
He must.
Yes.
He must. Because the arm becomes what is called a rodef. Rodef is a specific legal understanding. It means pursuer. A rodef is someone who is pursuing someone else with the active intention to kill them. Okay? And we are obligated to stop a rodef whenever we can. With me?
Yes.
But in this case, the rodef would be the arm. In the case of the woman, if the rodef is the fetus and it's before 36 weeks, can you do an abortion?
You must.
Yes. You must.
If it's threatening her life.
Yes.
Right.
Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
See, I think this is such a better argument than pro-life and pro-choice. I just think it's smarter. So, on the one hand, a woman is forbidden from abortion even at week 1. On the other hand, she is allowed to have abortion all the way up to week 36, depending on the circumstances. Now, why, once it's at week 36 or the crown has been revealed, why can she not have an abortion then? Because who is to say that the baby is the rodef of the mother and the mother is not the rodef of the baby? Make sense? So, we're much more liberal and much more conservative. If the baby is threatening the mother's life, You could have an abortion at any time. If it is not, you cannot have one. It doesn't matter if it's week 1. Interesting so far? This is what we're talking about. Okay. And it's all back to the flaw. But now we get to the issue of, well, let me stop there for a moment. So when you get all of these Reform rabbis who never studied Talmud saying abortion is allowed in Judaism, is that a full and complete statement?
No.
No.
And they say it's all about the woman's rights, because if a woman is injured by someone, he's not killed. That clearly shows that it's a woman's rights. A calf belongs to the cow, right? And they justify. Is that a complete story?
No.
It's not, is it? It's not. But their agenda, they've already shot the target, so now they're going to use whatever quotes out of context.
Right.
Now here,
But couldn't there be an argument that in the event of, just saying what you said, that the woman was raped,
let's go there.
okay?
I was about to
And
get there.
And that you were, okay, because you were talking about.
That's about to get there.
If
It's
it
okay.
is
Hold
gonna
on.
harm the mother.
Let's go back.
That's where
Now,
emotional comes in.
we know, and it's talked about throughout Talmud, that the psycho-emotional state of a human being affects their physical health, right? You do herbs. When you're, as an herbalist, you take into account what their psycho-emotional state is, right? And if you didn't, would your prescription work? But not as well. Okay? So we know, because you're the closest to what a doctor was 2,000 years ago. Okay? So we know that your psycho-emotional state affects your physicality,
That's true.
right? So now we get to the question of, is it going to kill the pregnant mother? Maybe a woman comes in and she said, and she, God forbid she was raped, and she says, even thinking of getting pregnant, she's going to go kill herself. If you really believed that, then there'd be an obligation to do an abortion, right?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, who would determine that? Any guesses? Alan knows who.
Psychiatrist.
The rabbi.
The rabbis. Beit Din.
Oh, the
A
Beit
Beit Din
Din,
would.
right, of course.
Okay, right? Okay. But now let's take another example. That same guy walks into Dr. Alex. His two of his fingers are paralyzed. And he says, you need to cut off the arm. And Alex says, or you need to cut off the entire hand. And Alex says, you're out of your mind. All they are is paralyzed. It's not a risk to your life. You've had some nerve damage. It's not going to come back, but there's no way I'm cutting off your hand. I'm not amputating anything. Everyone agrees with Dr. Alex's take?
So far.
Up to a point.
Now, Mr. Poloni then says to Dr. Alex, no, you don't understand. He tells Dr. Alex that he's the world's greatest violinist. And every time he looks at his withered hand, it will bring him to a depression and his life will be over. He'll kill himself, or his life will. Now, is it possible that Dr. Alex should cut off that hand?
Yes.
Out of compassion?
How's that going to make his violining?
No, it's just looking at the withered hand
Oh.
reminds him of what he was and what he'll never be
So
again.
no hand is
Yeah.
better? Okay,
That's a
now-
different discussion.
Different discussion,
But maybe it is for that person,
maybe. Okay.
right? Can we all see the arguments?
Yeah.
It's not black and white, is it?
No, nothing's
That's
black
what's the
and white.
beauty of this.
That is part of the beauty of this, is that it's not black and white,
Shades and
and that it's so all-knowing,
yeah.
right? And so when we talk about these forbidden relationships,
Mhm.
there's a long place in between, right? There's a statement, the Yoruba people have a statement in Africa, they say there's big distance between tooth and tongue. Tooth and tongue.
Oh yeah.
Okay, there's a big difference, isn't there?
Yeah.
And it's not going to be so. This is, and what's happened in the last 60 years, I was going to say. What's happened is, all too often, Judaism is taught not as Judaism, but as a way of justifying a different political or social agenda. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
That's what happens. And so Judaism becomes about that because the rabbis become about that. I was on a radio show last week, and the host asked me, what do you think, why are American Jews so messed up? What are the problems? I said to him, you're going to get me in trouble, aren't you? And he said, Rabbi, I already know you. You know how to get yourself in trouble.
Knows you will.
It's pretty funny, actually. And I said, it's the rabbi's fault because we don't have more rabbis like Shulchan. Okay, that's why.
Yeah.
Because if it's not in the ultra-Orthodox world, the Reform and Conservative world have become very much about something other than Judaism all too often. The fact that rabbis can be calling for a ceasefire is to ignore what the Torah clearly says about Amalek. Okay, and so my politics are Judaism. And so, and then he said, what would you, if you could talk to every American rabbi, what would you say to them if you could talk to them all at once? And I would say, stop being cowards. Leaders lead. You are Jewish leaders. Stop worrying about your board who's worried about finances and getting enough donations for your temple and how are you going to instead do your job, which has always been the same job for a rabbi for 2,000 years, to teach, to preach, to judge, to educate, to lead in a Jewish way, which is why I have the great love and admiration for Shulchan that I have, because he is a consummate.
Yep.
Okay, those of you who know him, how many of you know Rabbi Shulchan? Consummate rabbi, right? I mean, really, the epitome of what a rabbi can and should be. So it's not that easy is the point. We're starting to wrestle with that because the reason I spend so much time on Torah, the two places that we're going to spend a lot of time on. Spend a lot of time in Torah. We're going to spend a lot of time in Talmud. Less time in prophets and writings, the rest of the Bible. Less time, because those two places become the foundation of everything else we're experiencing. And if you don't understand how that system works, if you're not thinking in that way, right, then you're not, then everything else becomes confusing. Because see, we as Jews are willing to hold disparate opinions and see the validity of both. How many of you see that you can make an argument right now, homosexual relationships, homosexual sex are absolutely okay? Okay? How many of you could make an argument right now they're absolutely forbidden?
Right.
Right? You could do both, right?
Yeah.
That's the point. We hold disparate realities. Now, why is that so important? Because one of the ways you can enter into a heightened state of awareness or an altered state of consciousness is if you're conscious of two disparate realities at the same time. The only way is your sympathetic and parasympathetic systems of your brain shut down. You become your hippocampus becomes 400% more active, and you get to a different level to integrate both. Right now, we're on opposite sides of the table, but if we're all standing on the roof, we're on the same side because we're all down here, right? You have to go to a different place. So Judaism often is going to have disparate realities and say elu ve'elu. These words and these words both have validity. So there is no contradiction for me as a Jew to say Hamas must be entirely destroyed and not defeated, down to the last child and animal, just like it says about Amalek. And I will mourn every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I will cry about every one of them, because the same way, not just as a human being, but the same way God teaches us, he cries when the soldiers of Pharaoh are drowning.
Right.
And I don't have to, which is very, the Catholic way is a little different. This or this.
Yeah.
As a Jew, we don't have to say this or this. We can say this and this.
Yeah.
Okay? Rabbi asked you a question of A or B. You know what the right answer is?
Both.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right. So yeah.
I have a tiny little question about this Hamas issue. Now and then, this tiny little question keeps.
I love the
getting
little
my
questions.
brain.
They open up to big questions.
We have that attitude, destroying them completely, doing away with them. We're extinguishing the possibility that there could be a miracle and they could change.
Correct.
How can we? How are we able to?
Okay,
do
so
that?
let's go. I don't know if I talked about this in class or not. This book is filled with forgiveness.
Mhm.
It is only filled with forgiveness, kindness, and possibilities. God, when the angels say, "Why are you letting Ishmael live?" God says, "I'm judging where he is now, not where I know he's going to be."
Yeah.
Because even God leaves the possibility. Free will. David sleeps with a married woman and sends her husband off to die. He's forgiven.
Yeah.
Only one guy who cannot be redeemed, and it's Amalek. Because Amalek attacks the weak from behind. If you had asked me 2 months ago, what should we do about Hamas? I would say work out a peace, whatever is necessary. When they did what they did on October 7th, they demonstrated they were Amalek. That cannot be redeemed.
That's right.
It's not. So someone said, "Well, Hezbollah's." We were at Christy's house, right?
Right.
And a woman in front said Hezbollah, and I said, "No." Remember that? I said Hezbollah's not Hamas. Thank God, at least not yet. Thank God. They're an enemy in war.
Different.
Hamas crossed a line you cannot come back from, according to this. That's why. And the reason, by the way, that everything needs to be destroyed. And even King Saul will say, in the Midrash, he says that, why should the innocent die with the guilty? Why should you kill the animals? So let us suppose that we're living a few thousand years ago, and I see Alex has got this great goat. I said, "Alex, that's a good-looking goat you got. I like that goat." And where'd you get that goat? He said, "Oh, this was a goat from the Amalekites." Really? Tell me about them. How'd they get such good-looking goats? They must have had something good about them. Tell me everything you know about the magnitude and the magnificence of the Amalekites. Do you guys see that? That's why it says blot out the remembrance of them, and that is so painful, Carol. That is so horrific. Does that help at all? And we got to be able to hold both.
That last 1%, it's just hard to wrap my brain.
I know it is. You've seen me cry how much?
Yeah, every day.
Okay, I literally am crying every day. Literally, not figuratively, not inside. I'm a wreck. Because let's be clear, every one of those Hamas soldiers was born innocent. Every one of them was born as a baby with a pure soul. And they never had a chance. They never had a chance. Doesn't change anything. It's Golda Meir's statement. We can forgive them potentially for what they did to what they do to the Israeli children. We will never forgive them for what they make us do to theirs. Never.
Mhm.
So the point is that Judaism is about holding disparate realities. Yeah, Alex, you want to say something? Getting late. So.
Yeah, they discovered in a child's bedroom
A copy of Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
in Arabic.
Okay, that child doesn't have a chance,
Mhm.
does he?
No.
Nope.
But it doesn't change the fact. So Judaism, very much what we're learning is there's a disparate reality, right? We hold conflicting imperatives and we hold them together. And that's what also confuses the non-Jew. I will share one lighter story with us. Arthur Gross Schaefer, who's a tremendous man, he's a Reform rabbi, he's in Santa Barbara. He's also at Loyola Marymount ethics chair, business school, and a dear friend. It's one of he and Shochet are the two witnesses on my ketubah. And Arthur and I would get in we love each other. I mean, he stayed at my house 2 nights a week until the boys were born. We would get into fights, arguments about how we should do something for Hillel, because I was the Hillel advisor, but he'd been the rabbi on campus for 30 years. Because I wanted to be more observant, and he was, a classic Reform kind of guy in many ways. We would, oh God, what we get into? Because we're both fighting for what we believe is best for the Jewish kids. And it brought us closer together. Can everyone relate to that in some way in your life?
Yeah.
The priests would look at us. How can they even like each other, be in the same room the way they go at it? Because they didn't understand holding two opposite points and having respect and love for each other. That's what we do as Jews. Would I like a ceasefire? Of course I'd like a ceasefire. Would I like to have no more bombs? Of course I would. Do I think we should? No. It terrifies me that people are discussing a ceasefire. It infuriates me. So does that answer your little tiny question that opens up to a big, big question? And part of what we're doing is to learn to hold both sides simultaneously. So right now, you can all hold the side of any homosexual relationship is forbidden, and you can also hold the side that anything but rape is allowed. Right? Can you hold both?
Yeah.
Well, then tonight's a good night. Service is Friday night. And next Monday as well. And so we'll have fun on my Friday night, God willing. I will keep trying to do these. Are these emails worthwhile?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing is I do have a favor to ask. Okay. Did Allison get a hold of you? Did she confirm the date with the parks? Okay. Allison's waiting for an answer from the city parks for us to have our Latka launch on the Sunday in December. I think it's the 10th. We've been really good. We've raised $460,000 for a hospital.
Wow.
Between us and people I know and Sebastian Gorka helping us. And I'm obviously doing a lot of writing. And we need to raise a lot of money in December just for our own survival. So, which we got to remember that too. And so I really want to, if everyone reaches out to get 20 other people to buy tickets, not just yourself buying, but if you get 20 other people and you strong arm them and say, buy tickets, we need that this year. Okay. So, do you all know what a Latka launch is? Who does not know what a Latka launch is?
No.
Latka launch is a fundraiser we do where we grid off a field and we will have frozen latkes.
No.
Yeah.
Not rocks hidden like latkes. I know, we're going to have frozen latkes this time. We'll make it work. I have faith. I figured that out. So, and there's a huge slingshot and it takes 3 people and it's hurled from home plate and the field's gridded off. And if it lands in your field, you win a prize. Art. Do we have any prizes here that are here right now? All sorts of art and hotel stays. Didn't you guys take a hotel stay?
We did.
Where did you guys go?
The Omni, right?
Yeah.
La Costa or Rancho?
Rancho.
Rancho Las Palmas. And you had fun.
Oh,
Motel 6 in La Habra.
No, we do. We do like 5-star places. Okay. I mean, we right. I mean, you loved it, right? I mean, it's great.
Oh, yeah.
So, I want to put that out because we really do need. One of the things that usually I'm able to do is periodically call people and kind of say, don't you want to give another 5 or 10 grand? The temple really needs it. I have not been able to because I've been doing 2 to 3 emails a day and writing 40,000 words and helping people, and now trying to stop a riot from happening in Westlake Village.
Mhm.
So, hopefully I'll see you all on Friday.
Are we going
Thank
to
you.
get an email from somebody about the donation from Thursday?